thinking about continuing with a worse hand, in fact. It's almost closer to a value bet than a bluff, you might think. Though maybe he's planning on firing a second barrel on a lot of rivers, at which point it certainly would be a bluff.
Is there any reason for Durrrr to raise? Any reason at all? You know, besides that we know what Marcello has. I mean, you just said it makes so little sense for Marcello not to have it. No.
No, Marcello can have plenty of bluffs, I think.
Right.
And obviously, Durrrr...
Rebluffing, he has some nut outs.
I mean, this is Durrrr really stepping it up a different gear than he's done so far.
He's been relatively passive so far. He's been, trying to pick off Marcello's bluffs. And
I mean,
now he's bringing it right back to him.
He's made a 45K
He probably won't get Marcello to fold an ace right here, but with another big bet on the end, he very well could.
Just wonder, I mean, that kind of play, it's almost a mark of respect to Marcello, isn't it? Saying, hey, I think you're capable of really making some plays a lot.
Yeah.
And he was right.
Yeah.
Looking at the stats, Durrrr with more chips, but he's stuck.
Right. He's in for 500K to Marcello's 250. So Marcello's up about 57.
Still, now the button raise thing has kind of swung
Marcello's
back.
has come way down. That's a big change in not that long, going from 85 to 75. And Durrr's has gone up to 85.
Welcome back to what I believe is the highest stake poker game ever played on TV. And game is on, Isaac.
It certainly is. We've seen some very gutsy bluffs from both sides. Some really high-level play, too.
This pot seems almost tame by comparison so far. Just the raise and the call. And now the continuation bet takes her down.
Sort of to continue with ace-7 on that board.
The defense that Durrrr we saw earlier use to Marcello making bluffs, to sort of make some bluffs as well. Now, is Marcello going to say, hey, I may have to step it up to a new level, or is it dialing back down to having the hand?
It can really go either way. At this point in the match, trying to dial it back a little and hope to play a big pot with a big hand could work out well, but both players so observant that if either stepped off the gas for just a bit, the other might just keep winning all the small pots and then get away when the big pot finally comes up.
Tea with lemon, I believe.
I want to do the same. Maybe it's good for you.
Raise 3,000 blind.
And it's what you would call a blind straddle, I guess, heads up.
It's not exactly a straddle because Marcello doesn't get the live action if Durrrr only calls. That would actually be a very advantageous play if you could do it. But he's just raising in the dark.
And because he has raised in the dark, Durrrr would probably not be able to look in the mirror unless he re-raised something like 85% of his hands there, right?
A little one-upmanship, I think. Though King-9 off, not a bad hand at all, well ahead of a random hand.
Man, I had so many times in the last week that I thought I should have made some crazy bluff and didn't. On reverse ace-all, I actually made a ton of them, but those all didn't work out. And the other ones like would have. And that king-queen one, I made a pretty weird bluff. Still so tilted about it.
Raised 3,000 total.
That hand will be sticking in many people's memories for a while, I think.
Just the way Tom was talking about it last night, do you think he regrets the river bet or regrets not taking more time after Marcello's raise? You know, was it an uncallable raise?
I don't know. Awfully close to it, but at the same time, if you give Marcello credit for ever being able to bluff there, you're getting 7-1, and King-Queen does beat most of those bluffs.
Amazing. Amazing.
It's the sort of thing you can only get away with once. Marcello has to have the awareness that Tom doesn't give him credit for being able to make that sort of bluff, because the price is just too good for him to ever fold if he thinks that it can happen more than once in a great while.
Call.
Well, this pot is not huge, but Marcello has been induced to bluffing, and now the
He has
savior.
gotten there. Probably fire again for value here.
10,000.
He does. Tough spot for Tom. We haven't seen him make any laydowns in these sorts of spots yet.
All right.
Pass.
You know, I think overall he's going to be happy he folded that, because not that he ever gets upset, but seeing the king deuce turned over there wouldn't have exactly filled him with elation. Better to think it may have been a full house.
Yeah. Marcello could have gotten a good little needle in there by showing only the deuce. But thus far, a very friendly and respectful match.
It has been, but he did show the king-9 bluff, and I think it had the right effect. You know, it's not about putting a guy on tilt. I mean, Durrrr doesn't really tilt, but obviously he can't think about anything else. I mean, it has to dominate your thoughts.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if it's the elephant in the room, but it's certainly the elephant in Durr's head.
You can't help but be a little shaken up after something like that.
Check.
And in talking about sort of these crazy bluffs he's been wanting to make last couple of days, just an allusion to the fact that he's been spending the nights during this $1 Million Challenge playing stakes about this high
5,500.
online, basically equally this high. Some would say higher because they're playing 5 tables at a time, but I mean,
And
non-stop
those matches
poker.
have not been going well for Tom thus far.
No.
$25.
Wow.
Raised to 25,000. Pass.
Tell me about that.
Too good.
It's a tricky play. He doesn't have a whole lot of outs if he's called, and he's not going to get Tom to pass a pair all that often. So
I miss
it's
full
the sort of
tilt a lot.
spot where I would expect to call more often than
You
a
can still play
raise.
overseas, can't you?
But
Like
that's been a
while you're
feature
here?
of Marcello's game this
I can
whole
play
match
if
so
I-
far.
If I win, how can I
He
catch
makes some
up?
plays that
Are you not allowed to?
you have
or-
trouble explaining, and yet
Low
those
save.
are the ones that work.
Italian
That's what's
people
paid off
can
for
only
him.
play with
That's why
the
he's still in
Italian
this
side.
match.
But how can they make a law on what you can do if you're overseas?
You can
Tom is a
play
guy who seems to have not really figured Marcello
Like, I
out.
think that's
You look at
only when you're
Marcello.
in
How
the-
conservative
I thought
does this guy
countries,
look?
like,
The
weren't
Italian
allowed to-
gentleman
I don't
in the
think any-
bespoke
the
suit.
The U.S.
And
can make
yet-
a law that U.S. citizens can't smoke when they're overseas.
He's
kind of
more
thing,
like
or
a
something
tiger
like
at
that.
heart, isn't he?
I mean, they can make whatever laws inside the country, but I thought they were like.
Right now, he doesn't really seem to be interested in what Tom is talking about, and I wonder if Tom's
It just seems
actually
like it's
trying to
messing
just
up
sort
so
of
many
distract him from the game a little bit.
Because what if I went to Italy? Would I be allowed to play full tilt still, or would I need to play?
You cannot play
Ace
with
obviously
I can't.
leading
can.
right now.
So then you must be allowed to play from London. If I'm not allowed to play from Italy. If not, that needs to be.
Is
like
this a
trade
bet
violation.
sort of for information, a lead for information, a donk? Or, Isaac, is it more just throwing money into the wind?
I feel like you'd still be allowed. I mean, from here, you'd still be allowed to cash it up.
5,000 bet and called, and hello.
$13,500.
This is Tom's turn to sort of hit a turn card, and
Yeah,
Pass.
seems due for it. Marcello makes a prudent pass.
slower passage of play. And probably, you know, if Durrrr even
I just
thinks
feel like it
about
must-
these things,
It must not be like that's such a weird trade.
being down 50K